Writing section, full review. By now, we have looked at both the question types in the writing section. We've understood the basics, learned a method, done a session of guided practice each, and we've also shared some tips and tricks with you that you can use to improve the score and avoid common mistakes. Now, this final session is a full review. We will be looking at the basics quickly of each question type, and then I will give you one question each to attempt, and we'll have a quick discussion about the method as well. Now, there are two question types in the writing section. You know that. This is quite simple. Write essay and summarize written text. Write essay, you will have one or two questions, 20 minutes for each, and you have to write 200 to 300 words. Let's do an example. So here's a question for you, a prompt for you to write an essay on. Now you can pause this video for 20 minutes and write an essay, and then we'll come back and have a look at the sample response. All right, I hope you've been able to write a good essay. Here's one sample response. In this essay, you've been asked your opinion, and you have to say whether this is a good development or a bad development. You can either say this is good and then make arguments to support that. You can say it's a bad development and then write some points to support that. Or you can acknowledge both the good and the bad. And this is what this sample response has also done. As you can see, the second paragraph, it says that no one can deny the convenience of shopping in large malls. So it talks about what's good about the large shopping malls. But in the third paragraph, it talks about what's bad about these malls, that they have had a strong impact on small scale shop owners. And as you can see, the third paragraph starts with however. So second paragraph starts with at the outset. They have used the right linking words for each paragraph between the second and third paragraph to show that there are arguments opposite to each other. The third paragraph begins with however. The final paragraph, it's a conclusion paragraph. It begins with in conclusion. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that this sample response, it follows some of the best recommendations that we have made. 4-paragraph structure. We also recommend that you acknowledge both sides because it makes it easier to write. Then it's also giving examples to support the arguments, right? And begins with a proper introduction and ends with a proper conclusion. So hopefully you have also written an essay similar to this. Now, do you remember the steps that we had discussed for this method? Because our goal is whenever we are practicing, if we have studied a method, we want to make sure that we always practice using the same method. That way it will become a habit, and in the exam you will automatically write that way. So I'll quickly once again repeat what the method was that we recommend, what that method is. So you start with reading and understanding the prompt. So in this case, you should have understood that I have to give my opinion whether this is a good development or bad development. And what is this referring to? It's referring to the fact that big shopping malls have been replacing smaller shops. After that, you decide your position on the topic. In this case, in this essay, the position was that I will write, I can see that there's some merit to both the sides. There's something good and there's something bad as well. And that is what I will write. Then think of 2 or 3 points. And as you can see, the second paragraph and the third paragraph, they were fairly well fleshed out. And then you start filling the 4-paragraph structure, which again, in the sample response, you saw a 4-paragraph structure starting with an introduction and ending with a conclusion. Keep checking that you're writing what is needed. This is what we always recommend. And in this essay, you can see that it was always to the point. We were writing just what we were supposed to write. So it did not deviate from what the prompt was about. And in the end, you must always leave some time, about 3 minutes, to review and improve. And I'm sure the person who wrote this sample response did the same because it was a very well written essay. And then in the end, you just go ahead and submit it and make it your goal to explicitly submit it before the 20 minutes run out. Maybe when it is 19 minutes 55 seconds, you can submit it. All right, so if you want, now we are on the last session. We are reviewing the writing section. From time to time, keep coming back to the basics. Make sure that you understand everything during your preparation. So every week, take out some time to review the master classes, understand the basic concepts, to once again go through the method, to have a quick look at the tips and tricks. That's all you need. You don't need to take any shortcuts. You don't need to look for materials here and there. If you just follow the method, if you take these lectures seriously, that's all that you need. Now, let's look at the second question type in the writing section, and that is summarize written text. 1 or 2 questions, 10 minutes for each question. You have to write the summary of the text that is given to you, and the summary should be between 5 to 75 words. One point to keep in mind, you have to write only one sentence. Just one sentence. Here's an example. You can pause the video for 10 minutes and try to write a summary. Then we'll have a look at it. We'll have a look at the sample response. I hope you've been able to write a good summary. So shall we have a look at the sample response? Here we go. There are billions of young people in the world who can go on to solve the world issues, make new inventions and do great things. But unfortunately, all are not yet ready for the future. So that's the summary. How close is your summary to this one? Have you been able to capture the key points? So what were the key points? The first one, that if you read, if you remember that or what we discussed when we were looking at the method with the help of an example, that you should read, and the goal of your reading is, the first goal is to understand the theme. So here that there's a billion plus 1.8 billion young people, largest cohort in human history, and then they hold a shared future, etc., etc. They'll do great things. But the third paragraph, then it raises a concern that they will not automatically do these great things. They need right education, right opportunities. And the fourth paragraph says that most of them are not ready. They are not prepared for this. So if I have to sum up that the theme, it talks about the young people, the potential they have, but how all of them will not get the opportunities. All of them are not ready. So that is, and then we had also discussed that supplementary information that you need to ignore, and you can either rephrase the key sentences after you identify the key sentences. Was the key information in the text? You can rephrase it, or you can write it entirely in your own way. Yeah. So in this case, it is, I would say the sample response is somewhere in the middle. It's taken the information from the text, but then it's combined it in a different way. So it doesn't look repetitive. It doesn't look a copy paste of what's there in the text. And this kind of a response will also get you full mark in your summary question. Now, before we close this session, shall we review the steps one more time? Yeah, let's do that. The first step, as I've been saying, read the text with the goal. The first goal, understand the theme. The second, understand the arguments or understand the key points, what they are and where they are in the text. Then understand the examples, or I would say understand the supplementary information so that you can ignore it. After that, shortlist the sentences to focus on. So in the text, identify the parts. Now, the parts that you're going to focus on, which are just the key parts, no supplementary information, and using those shortlisted parts, those shortlisted sentences, you're going to prepare a summary. And then you can rephrase and combine, or if you want, and which will get you the best results, express the key point entirely in your own way, in a short but crisp sentence. Now, the word limit is 5 to 75 words, but we discussed that about 30 words is sufficient. Sometimes, if you're able to express, even 20 words is enough. After that, once you've written, in the end, leave a minute or 2 minutes for review. What can you do in the review? In the review, you can catch grammatical mistakes, you can catch vocabulary errors, and you can check the form that you have only written one sentence, you're within the word limit. And finally, and very importantly, that summary, what you've written is actually the key point, that you haven't written unnecessary information or you haven't missed the key point. And then all you have to do is confidently submit it for a high score. So that was the writing section. Now, some tasks for you. Review what we have discussed today. Make sure you revisit the parts that you need to. If you need to understand a method, go have a look at the session for that method. If you need to look at an example, check out the examples or the guided practice. And most importantly, do some practice tests. And when you do them, treat them like real exam practice. Make some time every day to read academic texts. Okay. They say that to become a good writer, you first must become a good reader. So make reading a habit. Read sample essays to understand what is expected. So when you are practicing, in the end, after you have done the questions, you leave 30 minutes to review what you've written, compare them with the sample essays. And now you can confidently go ahead and aim for a high score in the writing section.